Howdy ho there, you YouTubers. It's the crazy man out to go get some food again, because he is hungry AF. So, what is up, guys? I'm Cool40 here. I want to talk about the reason why Burning Abyss is still topping. I saw this post on Zodiac earlier, and it brought up a really good point. It is the year 2018, and Burning Abyss is still topping. And there's got to be some rhyme or rhythm to this madness, right? Like, this isn't just some 1 or 2 times spawn of Satan. You know, we saw this during Zoo format a little bit. We saw it a little bit during Spiral format. The deck just kind of comes out of nowhere and just kind of steals a couple victories. Or, you know, a victory, I mean, a top or two. Taking something away from either a rogue player or something like that. I got a couple of reasons for this. So number 1, player uneducation, or not educated enough, ... So this is something that I've particularly seen more recently than not, but players playing on a competitive level at regionals don't necessarily know what your cards do. That's right. The big blue man himself is saying not everybody is going to be looking at the entire pool of Yu-Gi-Oh cards from the last 900 years. There was a regional I went to. This always sticks with me as a memory. I went to a regional. My opponent had no idea what the hell Fossil Dynapachycephalo did, and I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like, how do you not know this? This is such a relevant card, or has been relevant for like all of time. And it was like, no, I've never heard of this card, and I actually might call over a judge because this card might be fake. And he's like, nani? Like, what kind of level 5 troll are you? But at the end of the day, a lot of players just don't know what previous cards do. And I'll be honest with you, if I was a player coming into today's day and age, new player who dis, I want to be competitive. So the first thing I would do is I would look at the last top event. If I didn't see Burning Abyss there, I wouldn't fucking even learn about it. I wouldn't even worry about it. But this would also be the same thing. You'd go to an event, you'd run across the one Spiral player who's still playing the deck, and you'd get fucking sleepered out of your mind, and you'd just be like, what the fuck just happened? Why isn't this deck better than it actually is? And you found out you got, you know, 1% tiled and shit like that. But not being educated on an entire pool of meta, I cannot blame the player base for this one. With a format as diverse as this one, having to keep up with 9, 10, 11, 12, 19 potential meta picks I might be running to in a 2-day event, yeah, that's a lot. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, look at Magic Modern. Modern's got, what, Affinity and everything else? I think that's the best way to look at it. I don't even know if Affinity's still a good deck. I haven't played since before they killed Poison. But when you look at a pool like that, you should know what your competitive player base is. You should know what your best deck is going into an event if you're trying to be competitive. But it's not unfamiliar for these players to be uneducated with these cards. I'm not going to blame it on ignorance or anything like that, because your average person doesn't have 92 hours a week, or, you know, 80 hours a week, Patrick Hoban, to be sitting here playtesting and, you know, trying to build the best fucking strategy for their event. A lot of people are just going on their bare minimum. And honestly, bare minimum's not a bad thing, but at the end of the day, I think uneducation, man, Robbie's just making up fucking words. Uneducated choices is one of the biggest things leading to just rogue choices like this coming to fruition. You know, not knowing how to play it around a Beatrice, not knowing the Dante Mills for cost. These are very big yum-yums that a Burning Abyss player is going to want to run into. And, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I skipped a Burning Abyss format. I did not enjoy it in the slightest. So I always read all my opponent's Burning Abyss cards. I have an idea what the deck does now, but we were always making sure that we're not missing anything. That's another thing. Try to understand what your opponent's cards do before you try to rationally make a very terrible decision that you cannot take back. Because, yeehaw, 9 times out of 10, you gonna mess up. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Alright. Time for gas. We will resume this in a second, shall we? Honestly, as far as decks that have a good toolbox left, Burning Abyss honestly kind of meets that criteria. Has disruption for spells and traps, has the ability to blink monster effects, has a pretty good ability to play the game on your opponent's turn. Aren't these all things of a good deck? I mean, you're just kind of missing the massive draw power and the Stratos. You know, as far as I know, Burning Abyss doesn't have an 1800 body that searches for another. Oh wait, Skarm. But Skarm is more of a X-Saber type of Dark Soul clone thingy. But the deck is reminiscent of Dragon Rollers with its limitations and things like that. But the toolbox is, I think, what has allowed the deck to remain relevant for, honestly, as long as it has in the TCG. You know, granted, uneducation is a big thing that plays into it, but if you're really a very skilled Burning Abyss player, then you can make the calls based on your opponent's actions and, you know, decide, hey, I need to blink this monster with Farfa. You know, all jokes aside, I honestly think Farfa is probably the best goddamn monster that they have at their resource pile, as opposed to half of the other decks. You know, sure, the monster comes back during the next window it can, but let's be real here. Blinking out an Electromite so your opponent can't get more resources, depending on the situation. Taking care of another big boss monster, you know, forcing something out of the way so you can punch your opponent for 4,000 direct. It's pretty good, I'll be honest with you. And you get 3 copies, technically more if you have some crazy way to recycle things. But at the end of the day, Pilgrim and company, it's a very well thought out toolbox. You know, as long as you stay educated and you know how to play against your current meta choices, you're not going to run into any issues. But the point of this video is, hey, Burning Abyss is still a relevant deck 3 years, 4 years later after its release. The deck is not as broken as it once was, but the toolbox that it had the first time through at its disposal is still proven to be relevant. And I think Burning Abyss was... Somebody's gonna leave me a really nice comment down below, but let's be real here at the end of the day. You know, it's not gonna be that good. Know what to do against the toolbox situations. That's all I'm saying. You know, is Burning Abyss a very safe pickup if you want to? That's up to you. I can't make that decision for you at the end of the day. You know, if a deck has remained this relevant for a while, I'm sure it might remain relevant for a little while longer. I mean, look at the Lightsworn engine. You know, a quadrillion years later, it's still doing its thing, but at the end of the day, you have to make the decision if this is a skill tree that you want to go down for budget reasons, or if you believe that at some point something will happen to the engine that will make it a little bit less relevant. That is up to the player at the end of the day. It's something that, as somebody like me who tries to make sure we have every deck in the game to make sure we have the best resource pool available in case something crazy happens, yeah, I'm way on top of the Burning Abyss quote-unquote hype train 2.0. But at the end of the day, like I said, the deck is still relevant for either reasons of the community not being educated against it, or the fact that the toolbox that the deck brings and the floatability that it still has in today's day and age are still incredibly relevant. And I think that, like I said earlier, I think this is the best way for Konami to go forward, designing decks like this to be relevant for a very long time to come. Toolboxness, the ability to adapt, and the ability to winky face, not care if Maxie's in the game or not, because Maxie really does hurt. Whew, God, Maxie really does sting. Thank God we took care of that big pesticide issue while we had the chance. But let this be a lesson to all at the end of the day. Burning Abyss is still here in today's current format. If you're looking to play competitive, just make sure you're staying on top of things. Make sure you stay educated. And when your opponent goes into Beatrice, make sure you spot removal it correctly, because you ain't going to want to deal with that. repercussions everywhere. Alright, guys, that's all I got. Hope you enjoy this little discussion. Papa Robbie out.